Hi guys, my name is Akshay and I am a manifestation coach. All my contact info is in the description. Today I'm going to tell you a success story. It is a Neville Goddard case story, but it is very inspiring and it will help you to learn how to manifest the big stuff that you've been waiting on for a long time and that you've been trying to get for a long time, but it's not happening for you. The things that you have tremendous resistance towards, how to manifest those big things, be it, this works for all desires, be it SP, love, money, houses, cars, and so on. Okay, so this video I hope will help you to finally land in the inner space and the mindset and in the state that will help you to manifest those big things that you think are so intimidating or improbable. Okay, so in this story there was a doctor and his wife who had purchased a big plot. Okay, in some countries they call them lots. So they had purchased a big plot slash lot of land. This was not farmland, it was residential land. Okay, so this was a big lot in a residential part of town, and they had built on one corner of the lot, on one side, they had built their home and their office. The man was a doctor and he lived with his wife. So he had a respectable income. Okay, but that income went towards their life savings. Okay, so they had a good financial background, but their desire was very big. Their desire was that on the remaining part of the lot, they wanted to have a multi-story apartment building. However, they were normal people, like the man was a doctor. He did not understand construction, and he and his wife, they did not want to risk their life savings on a project that they did not know much about. So for 15 years they just clung to this desire that, oh my god, it would be lovely to have a multi-story apartment building next to our house on our own land, which we've already purchased. But we don't have the money, it's expensive, it's risky, we don't understand construction, we don't want to risk our life savings, and so, okay. And this was their state of mind. This was their relationship with the thing that they wanted, their relationship with their desire for 15 years. But then they came across Neville Goddard's teachings and they learned that whenever they wanted something, all they had to do was to think, feel, imagine, assume that they already had it. And they decided to try it because they had a normal life, they had a good life, they had nothing to lose, there was no risk involved for them. So they decided that they are going to simply try to manifest this dream of theirs to have a multi-story apartment building. So what they did was they sat down together and they forgot all about money. Okay, because as I said, they did not have the money, they did not have the money to risk on this project. So they forgot all about money. They figured that the universe or subconscious mind or god or whoever was manifesting for them did not need their money to make the building happen because the building was already there. Okay, they imagined that the building was already there when in fact there was nothing but air. There was no building, but they convinced themselves that the building is already there, so we don't need any money or anything. How they did it? They drew a sketch of how they wanted their building to look like. Okay, and they both imagined that the building was standing there. Okay, and they took trips through the building and saw that all apartments were rented to very good tenants. Okay, and they imagined that their friends and family congratulated them that the building was built. So initially, they admitted that it felt a little unnatural initially when they tried it for the first few times to put themselves into a relaxed state and to take imaginary trips through the building, which in their head was already constructed. But in fact, there was no building, there was just air. The fact was that there was only air. Okay. But initially, when they took imaginary trips, it felt a little weird. But after a few days of practice, they were fused to their desire. Okay, it became more and more natural for them, and they began to enjoy their trips more, and they were slowly convincing themselves by rehearsing mentally and emotionally that the building was already there. They were convincing themselves that yes, indeed, the building was there. And one day, while having breakfast, the wife happened to mention a builder who had many projects in that area. But quickly they remembered that why are we talking about a builder? Our building is already constructed now. Now, this might seem delusional to most people who are operating on a very logical premise. But they were doing manifestation, which by its very nature is a little bit irrational. Okay, so they were like, oh, we don't need to discuss any builder because we already have the building, right? And so a few days later, what happened was a nice car stopped in front of their house, and a gentleman approached them apologetically. And he said that he was a builder and he had that many projects in that area. He was the same builder that they'd spoken about a few days ago. And he said, usually, I don't go to people, they come to me with projects. And I'm very sorry to disturb you, but I see there's more than enough space for a multi-story apartment building on your lot. And they said, yes, we would love to have an apartment building, but we don't have the money for it. He said, oh, that's all right. And a few days later, he came back and he said, I have come up with architect's plans, and these plans are perfect for your place, so they'll help you to save a few $1,000s. They said, wow, that's wonderful that you have the plans, and the plans look lovely, but we don't have the money to construct the building. He said, oh, it's all right, and he left. And a few days later, he came back and he said that he'd spoken to a bank, and they would finance the cost of construction, and the total cost of construction back in the day was $30,000. In today's money, it's more than $250,000. They said, wow, that's lovely, but we don't have the money to put into this project, really. And the next day, as if doing them a favor, he came back. Okay, and he laid out the whole deal in front of them, that the bank would finance the majority of the construction costs. Let's say the bank would finance $25,000. He would use his own $5,000 to put into the project. Okay, and they don't have to pay a single cent upfront. The bank would finance 25K, he would finance 5K. The building would be constructed, and they would pay back from the rental income. So they will get the building, and then they will rent out the flats to tenants, and then they would pay back the bank and the builder from the rental income. And this time they were very happy and excited, and they signed the contract. And the building was constructed for free, guys. Okay. Without paying a single cent of their own money, they got the building constructed for free, a dream that they had just been dreaming about for 15 years. But when they began to think from the end, that the building is already there, And even though their actions seemed so illogical, the builder is giving them the opportunity. Oh, you are going to save money, like, let's make a deal. Oh, the bank will finance 25K, let's make a deal. They're like, no, we don't have the money. Because they figured out that the God or universe does not need their money to make the building materialize. And they imagined that all the apartments were rented. And that was exactly the case. All the apartments were rented before the building was completed, except one. And so instead of imagining that they received a call from the tenants and they were showing them the empty apartment, they imagined that the tenants had already moved in and were very pleased to be in the new apartment. That is what they imagined. And on the third day after the completion of the building, that empty apartment was rented. They had a friend who had given them up socially, who would stop talking to them because she was probably conservative, and these guys were probably attending these Neville Goddard meetings, which back then were controversial because Neville said that Christ lives within you, and it did not sit well with many people back then, and perhaps even now many people, they kind of find this idea to be very sacrilegious or something. But this woman who was their friend had stopped talking to them. And so they imagined that she'd come and she'd asked for a tour of the apartment building. And then she'd said, thank you, doctor. It is a beautiful building. It's a wonderful building. And she came a little later than they'd imagined, but she did come. And the doctor showed her around and she said those exact words. And that is how they had manifested every little detail about their desire. Okay. And how did they do it? Instead of longing for it, what does longing mean? Oh, I really, really want this, but I can't have it because I don't have the funds for it, or I don't have this. I really want this SP, but the SP is not talking to me, or they are in a different town, or they are very cool. Oh my God, I really want to do that trip to that part of the world, but it's so hard and it's so expensive. Instead of longing for it and being sad because you can't have it, imagine you already have it and enjoy the feeling of having it. Simply enjoy the feeling of having it. If I had to teach manifestation in one line, it would be simply enjoy the feeling of having what you desire. Enjoy it wholeheartedly and to the point of satisfaction. Don't let your limiting beliefs and all that stop you from enjoying the feeling of already having what you want. I hope that this story resonated with you and inspired you, and that you will be able to effortlessly live in the end of having your desire and will consequently manifest it in the 3D as well. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please hit like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, unleash the power within you, and remember that if I said it, I already did it. Thank you.